Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome into the Hunter Houston ESG podcast. Now, before we get started, this is going to be, I guess, more of a somber episode since I'm doing it so early in the morning. Shout out, not a shout out, but a thank you for everything this individual done for me, for many others, for his great and wonderful life. George Foreman, a fellow Houston Texan, a great person overall who's done so much for so many, not just, for those who only know him for his grill, for those that know him from the boxing world, for those that know him as a human being, and every kid's life that he touched. Now, I have told the story before. I am from Houston, Texas. I am more or less from the Fifth Ward area. Um, Now, I haven't lived there my whole life. I've been fortunate enough to have moved away, but have gone back and will be going back again this year. So there we go. Um, no, it saddens me because of everything that he did, not only for me, but what he did for other communities. I'll make my story quick because, this is more or less a gaming slash entertainment show. But when I was like young, um, and I was, in Texas and Houston, there was a youth center for underprivileged youth, such as myself, that George Foreman. And I mean, you talk about our neighborhood more or less run by certain gangs, and if you weren't inside at a certain time, they literally would, if you didn't know somebody, either put you down or whatever. I mean, I've had a freaking submachine gun pulled on me one time, saying, "Hey man, who are you?" And I said who it was. I said where I was going, and you really can't show fear and those kind of things. You just got to be cool about it, and to say, "Hey, this is who I am." Blah blah blah. It's like, all right, man, you need to get out of here before things get whatever. Like, cool, bet. So, needless to say, going to at nighttime, if in those areas, you need to have a purpose. During the daytime, you could kind of move freely, but you kind of know where to go and not where to go. Um, so, with that said, George Foreman, brother George, ran this youth center, and they had a boxing ring, and that's where I learned how to like box, and not just be like a street fighter and all these other different things. And if I didn't have this particular nose, I'd like to think that I cop probably could have been something special. I have good hands, good hand-eye coordination, and unbelievably a lightning fast strike. But enough about what I feel about me. But George Foreman would come from time to time, and he's the only person who could go into a super bad neighborhood with a Ferrari Testarossa, leave the top down, probably leave everything that he has in that vehicle, and nobody touch it. That's how much George Foreman meant to that community in Houston, Texas. He's one of the greatest Houstonians, or Houston's uh, people from Houston. You really can't say enough about what he did as a human being. And let me add in a little bit of wrestling. Hulk Hogan says, if I would have took that grill, I would be in George Foreman's place right now. No, you wouldn't have. You would have never probably been in George Foreman's place. I love wrestling. I don't really love Hogan like that, but you would have never been in George Foreman's place. George Foreman was special. He loved those grills, and if anybody's listening to the sound of my voice, just by accident, or if someone has shared this particular episode with a friend, like, share, subscribe to the show. Um, Please go to the Foreman grills, give a review on Google, Amazon, and give it a 5 star. And if you've met the man, or if he's touched you in some way with his great boxing, or he's touched you from being on episodes of King of the Hill, um, The Simpsons, whatever, he was kind of an icon like that. If he touched you from being a reverend, from the church, whatever, man, say something positive about this guy. I mean, there's going to hopefully there'll be an outpour of people who will like, share their stories with about him and how great he was and how great he is. Actually, there is no was, how great he is. We're still living in the moment. As long as I live and breathe, you know, my interactions and my time with him will live on with me. So I'm forever grateful to George Foreman and for the time I've spent with him and with poor inner city youth. You know there's only so many people who get out and get to get free from that. And you know I ain't something special, but there's a lot of people who have succeeded or become successful because of George Foreman. So thank you, sir. Uh, God rest your soul. Born 1949, died or is resting with God in the year 2025. So, with that said, I'm sorry for anybody who may got emotional. I got a little emotional there. I don't want to sit there and end up crying because then someone will clip this and I'm a big sissy. So maybe, but I don't forget people who did stuff for me, who loved me, and didn't have to love me. So thank you, sir. Now, onward to the name of the show and the branding of basically, values and what values mean and the name of brands. And of course, in the background, what am I currently playing? I'm playing Assassin's Creed Shadows because this is a gaming show, kind of entertainment slash gaming show. And I'm currently playing Assassin's Creed Shadows. And let me explain before I go to Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I've spent a lot of time in it, of what branding really actually means and values. Branding means, like, let's say if on the thumbnail I have all these different things, is that people can trust you. If you have a brand name that people can trust, let's just say you're Pabst Blue Ribbon and you happen to live in Pennsylvania. Uh, People trust Pabst Blue Ribbon has a liquor dispenser or a beer dispenser and drink it. Maybe also because it's cheap. But still, they trust it. They trust the name brand, and they feel like it's a part of them, and so they're willing to buy it. And that's a value, not only in the name of the people, but a name of what's going to be um, given to a people and expect an inspection of quality. All right, PlayStation or Sony. When I used to think of Sony growing up as a kid, I did not think of the PlayStation because that didn't exist yet because of Nintendo's bad mistakes. For those that don't know, the original Sony PlayStation was supposed to be a Nintendo, and Nintendo basically at the last minute pulled out on the deal and decided to go with cartridge again, and that's how you got the birth of the Nintendo 64. So Sony, being Sony, at the time, and they had invested all this money and said, okay, we'll just do it ourselves and put out games ourselves, so forth and so on. And then the rest is history. And looking back, it was probably a bad business move on Nintendo's part. And Nintendo probably could have been revolutionizing the future rather than making games that can't even hit 1080p, even on their, or the highest resolution may be 1080p on their newest system. Very sad. But the trusting name of something that has brings value and brings you together and where you'll buy their product and you're more likely not to um, say, hey, this is garbage or hey, I won't buy it. And I think Sony, Nintendo, and then to an extent Xbox. And then what I mean by value is the value of if they are making a game exclusively for their system, it's going to be a good game. Now, people who have hurt their names with branding and current values is Disney. Disney over the last 5 years have lost a lot of trust with the general public, have lost a lot of trust with just people and normal people, not gamers or just movie watchers or whatever, based off their bad business decisions. and based off the bad PR they created for themselves, and basically saying, basically telling the fans to go eat it if you don't agree with what they're saying. And it's very sad and disgusting that it's like, again, it's the whole trope. Everything I dislike is Hitler. Everything I dislike is racist, bigoted, homophobic. No, no, no. You have no argument. The fans turned on you because you put out a product they didn't want, and so now you're trying to tell them or anybody who's like, "Well, I kind of liked it." Well, the reason why you liked it and they didn't like it because you're a bigot, racist. They're a bigot, racist, homophobe, or whatever. Um, so I think people are finally done with that, and they're saying, "Hey, man, just put something good out." And we'll call balls and strikes as they are. And I think that's the reason why some things are turning around and some things are being bad. Now, this goes to say that I really do think that the loyalty that customers have to certain brands is what's going to make or break certain games. Now, with Sony has exclusives when it comes to PlayStation games. Certain games that only have come out on the PlayStation and have just recently came out on the PC. But a lot of Xbox users, place what is it? Not PlayStation. I'm sorry, Nintendo, and so forth and so on have not played certain games. A lot of these Xbox users, and I know people. I've asked around my day job because trust me, I'm not getting paid for this yet. If I ever do, the there'll be hints like, I will look much better and possibly have hair done. So if you ever say I'm flying over to Turkey, that means I'm going to get the cheap surgery to get some hair back. And of course the lighting, and I won't be using just a webcam for those who actually watch and don't listen. I figured most people listen. Well, at least the stats show me most people listen as they go to work or just listen during the day or so forth and so on. So again, thank every and I mean this in the honesty of my heart. Thanks you to everyone who listens to this, man. I really do appreciate you, and thank you. Just just being here and hanging out with me and listening to a man ramble madly. But with Sony and their exclusives, look, Ghost Tsushima, Rise of the Ronin, and there's like other ninja games that have come out, or just Japanese, games that have come out that are just based on it. I'm just naming the top ones, and I'm going to lead this all into Assassin's Creed. So just give me a moment. And there have been a lot of them over the years, like with Tenshu. And I know a lot of people have never owned a PlayStation; they've been Xbox only. I'm not joking with you. I like to talk to people at my job site or just if I go in somewhere to get lunch or whatever and talk about video games. And I said, "Hey man, are you playing this? Are you playing that?" Well, I don't have a PS5, or I never played PlayStation. I've been an Xbox guy, or I've been a Nintendo guy my whole life. And so this is why I think, in my personal opinion, that Assassin's Creed or Shadows will be successful because it's the first time that someone may get to experience a Japanese culture because they've never had a PS5. PS5's never put out, Ghost of Tsushima, Niho, Rise of the Ronin, all there, and then again, there's a plethora of Japanese games, even on the PS4 and the PS3, PS2, Tenshu, Way of the Samurai, um, what is it? The one with Kiro-san from Like a Dragon Ishin, which is basically they pretend to be whatever. And then you got to think of even the PlayStation 1 games that they had that were like Japanese uh, titles that basically played into Japanese lore and Japanese culture. And if you've had certain people who've never got to experience that, and there's a ton. It's not just like, oh, it's 5 or 6 people. No, it is a ton of people who've never experienced that. So, Assassin's Creed Shadows being their first introduction may be their best introduction because of how graphically beautiful it is, how they're trying to tell the story. And, before I go on about Assassin's Creed, let me let me talk about these big game people that have these channels that happen to do with gaming or pop culture in general, just dogging down on Assassin's Creed over like one bit of bad dialogue. Okay, you're taking one bit of bad dialogue. That's like saying during the day that you might be listening to a rap song and you say one bit of bad dialogue that gets taken out of content that someone gets and basically says, "Oh, well, that person's a hater or whatever because they said this, and this is just a part of the song, and you're singing the song, but it's taken out of content, and it's just one bad piece of dialogue." Stop taking and no, it's just one piece. They're not taking all the dialogue. It's just one piece that was poorly written or poorly delivered by whoever that person is. And like, this is my cousin's former nephew's roommate who happens to be with my sister. Can you please give him like a line or her a line in the game? All right, let him say the line. So to the big, creators on YouTube and Rumble that happen to be, also political or do these other things, Tim Pool, Jeremy from the Quartering, Nerdrotic, um, all these people who claim like they're gamers, but yet they're haters. And, I consider myself a libertarian and possibly a little bit of I'm not even gonna say it. I'm gonna say a little conservative, but you know, to piss on something, just to piss on something sometimes, you need to wake up to that. And yes, we don't want like the message and everything, but you don't have to piss on something without playing it. Again, if you played it all the way through and you didn't like the game, that's one thing. Or at least you had like 2 or 3 hours into it. I have over, I'd say about maybe 20 hours into it at this point in time. And it's only been out since Thursday, okay? And I have no complaints about it yet. There's nothing that tells me that, well, this game is horrible and so forth and so on. Now, there are some questionable things for some people, which I am not going to spoil that game yet. I will come back to the game and give my review in a couple of weeks. So, if y'all look forward to me being here every week, there may be a few weeks I may take off because I'm just deeply involved in the game and don't want to do anything but play the game. So if I do that again, like I've done over the past couple of years, when I was playing Black Myth Wukong and I was obsessed, like literally obsessed with Black Myth Wukong, then I apologize to all the listeners out there. But hopefully I won't do that, and I will be grounded into doing my little 30 minutes and coming in and putting in a little bit of work and just telling y'all, hey, this is where I'm at in the game. Of course, I need a palate cleanser from time to time when it comes to gaming. And my cleanser for that would be Madden. For a lot of people, and I'm not talking about playing competitively. I'm talking about just playing just a random game, putting up points, watching my offense work. I despise playing defense. I just want to be an offensive player, but I do play the defense and play free safety and try to get some picks here and there. But that's my palate cleanser. If anybody wants to leave something in the comments or chats of what game is their palate cleanser, that basically is like, hey, I'm going to like, I need something to clear my mind of being upset at playing online and upset at playing, Call of Duty, whatever game it may be. What games that like just a neutral game where it just sets you back to normal or just get you back to factory resetting in gaming. And you're like, all right, I can go back to playing this game now because I'm not mad and I don't feel frustrated because I played a game. And also Infinity Nikki is another game like that. And then, with Assassin's Creed, and I really do feel that they have no bad will. In other words, even if you didn't like Mirage or some of the newer Assassin's Creed, the only one I did not like was Syndicate, just because it's in London, and man, I hate the British so much, being Irish and Comanche Indian. So the British have never, they did. I'm not going to say they deserve, but they allowed the quote unquote. It's not even really a two-party system to basically let them destroy their country, and hopefully Ireland will elect Conor McGregor, who is running for hopefully president, and he will just be. I hate to say it, but he needs to be a dictator. Get the invaders out. Ireland is for the Irish. Period. No one talks to China or other people, and they say, "Yeah, Japan is for the Japanese, the Korea is for the Koreans, so forth and so on." No, Ireland's for the Irish. The famine, everything that the British have done to us over centuries. You know, yeah. So to the people who may listen in London, which or in Great Britain, which yeah, it's like one dude, that's on you guys for letting your country fall. So, but enough of me being political and talking about my great grandfather's homeland. Uh, with Assassin's Creed, I really think that it doesn't have any negativity. I think it has a great brand and great branding, and unlike some of their newer titles, it has to do with just the branding and the timing. People tend to forget when the Avatar video game came out, which is basically, let's just say it's a reskinned version of Far Cry, but with the Na'vi or with the Avatar people. Okay, it comes out 2 years after the second movie. If it would have came out in conjunction with the movie, like it was supposed to, allegedly, then you wouldn't have the problems you've had with that game selling and not selling well. Okay, that was a poor choice on their behalf for not having that out. And hell, you could have just shortened the game up. It didn't have to be uber long. I played that game. I like that game, but it didn't have to be as long as it is. So next mistake: Star Wars Outlaws. You should have gave an option to play as a male bounty hunter, not just a female bounty hunter. And then the character model is, well, she's a Butters, so I'll leave it at that. Dialogue wasn't bad. I felt like there could have been more for the gameplay. I felt like you should have been able to steal some vehicles from time to time. She needed some more weapons. The the climbing wasn't there. I was hoping. Look, everybody was hoping it was going to be Uncharted in space. Basically, what the Heretic Prophecy that's supposed to be from Naughty Dog is going to be, but with better fighting mechanics. A Naughty Dog in space, and I'll leave it at that. I have that game. I've spent lots of hours on it, and I feel disappointed. Does it have a Star Wars element to it? A little bit, dude. It don't even have Star Wars music really, so it's like you don't feel like you're merged in the Star Wars world. You don't hear John Adams' score, so it's kind of defeating. But when it comes to branding, even though you hurt yourself with those two games, Assassin's Creed has a long, long history of delivering in many different areas other than Syndicate, which is the one I hate. Uh, so I really feel that this game and shout out to Will from PlayStation 8 Dead for calling me out and calling me a hypocrite because I had said in some earlier episodes, it's going to be trash, it's going to be X, Y, and Z because it did all this garbage. Well, look, man, I changed my tune before it came out because I've watched tons of different trailers. I've watched some other things, but not only that, I had to sit back and think that this is Ubisoft's last big hurrah, or otherwise they'd be bought out. And I think either this will either make it to where they do not get bought out, or and they remain with their freedoms, or basically bigger will heads will roll and the company will be sold off, or they'll sell off certain entities, and then they'll be able to still maintain the company. I mean, if anything, I hope they sell off Splinter Cell and someone picks it up and makes it immediately. And I would not give that Hideo Kojima because they'll just make it hokey as hell. It's kind of like well, I'm not going to do a wrestling reference and talk about when Vince McMahon bought the WCW and basically ruined wrestling for like almost 20 plus years, people tend to forget, man, when there was no competition, when it was just WWE competing against itself, TNA, as great as TNA was with a lot of its matches, it is not WWE. Didn't have a big enough. And, you know, when people think about Cody Rhodes, and I'm sorry to go on this road of wrestling, but it makes a lot of sense. If it wasn't for AEW being there and giving, and having another billionaire shoot his shot when it comes to wrestling, even though Tony is, I don't know what is, I'm assuming all the great booking was done by Cody, but shooting his shot and making constant mistakes, but yet there's competition, and there's a place where wrestlers can be seen on a big TV, means all the difference in the world. So yes, competition makes people thrive. When brands compete, people thrive. When there's just big corporations that own everything, then nobody thrives. And to say that, Assassin's Creed needs this win, and it's on in the back again, like I just said, yes, they need this win big time. So if you are a fan of Japanese art or Japanese style games and you've never got to play one, like most Xbox owners, also Nintendo owners, then you may want to pick, or even PC to an extent, but PCs not so much. PCs actually had like a lot of good Japanese games, but Xbox owners who are just console owners that have not owned PlayStations or have never really been into it because like all the graphics and the controls aren't that great. Here's your chance, and it takes from so many different things. It takes from Ghost of Tsushima, it takes from Rise of the Ronin, it takes from Tenchu, um, and then the dialogue changes in the quick time events. Well, I guess what would be considered quick time events. It really does change up the game of how things play. So I strongly recommend people check out Assassin's Creed Shadows for yourself. I will, like I said, I'll give my review on it here in I'll say a couple of months or a month or so. So that's definitely something worth looking at. So let me get the chance here to say, we take for granted so many times all these awesome things that we have in life, and the awesome people who've helped us along the way. And again, if you can, go over to the George Foreman grills, whatever product George is or was, hawking, you know, or selling or promoting. Give those 5-star ratings to that gentleman. He definitely deserves it. And maybe, it's just one last time to say thank you to somebody who definitely deserves it. If you have a Foreman grill or if you have other Foreman products, watch the George Foreman King of the Hill episode. It's pretty funny. The one in The Simpsons kind of goofy, and also he was on Futurama. For those who don't know, and of course all his television appearances. Always, he's unbelievably a great, funny man. All right, before I get out of here, shout out to the Resident Steroid YouTube show. Awesome show. If you are a filthy reseller or you're just someone who likes to collect games that kick butt, check that out, man. Sometimes he has some great things on there. Shout out to the PlayStation Ain't Dead. That is live every Saturday night, sometimes Friday at 10 p.m. on YouTube. So shout out to Sean, the man Powers, and shout out to James. And their show is growing and growing and growing. And the fact is that people are always, giving them like super chats, which is super awesome. So eventually, I hope my good friend can retire off of super chats if people keep doing things. Shout out to the Pappas report that is on the PlayStation 8 Dead podcast. Uh, Pappas, if you've ever been to New York, or if you have that uncle who's not afraid to bring a professional escort to Thanksgiving. Pappas is that kind of guy, man. He's cool. And I'm not saying he would do that himself, but he's that kind of cool guy. He's like that that old New York, mentor guy that you had growing up when you lived there. So shout out to him, and special thank you again to everybody. I'm sorry this wasn't a more upbeat episode, but I woke up at 3 o'clock and saw the news um, of George Foreman, and I thought about my time as a teenager there, and man, that's such a long time ago, and how like he impacted my life, uh, how he helped my hands too. I'm not gonna lie, made me a much better fighter at the time than I was, just from small things here, adjusting things that I do. So I'll never be I can never repay that guy for his time of helping stupid underprivileged youth such as myself at the time. So thank you so much to George Foreman for living a great life of a great man. And ladies and gentlemen, aliens, whatever you identify as in this wonderful, beautiful world, hey, thank you guys so much again for being here. Peace.